If you're watching this, I'm assuming you're alive. And as a living person, you probably have encountered this really cool feature in life where random, unpredictable obstacles will come at you basically all the time. I think that's why in a story, if something randomly goes good for a character, we all get real skeptical. You go, that wouldn't happen. However, if something randomly goes wrong for the character, no matter how many times it happens, we go, yeah, I mean, that's life. The point is, if you exist, you're probably battling something. And in this story, yeah, bad things happen. But it's wonderful to see the characters work through it through the power of friendship and the power of a succubus. And a little coffee helps. Now on the surface, Legends and Lattes is a cozy little fantasy story about an orc named Viv. She's tired of the mercenary life, so she quits, and she opens up a coffee shop and makes some friends along the way. I'm gonna rename this story Viv, the Maker of Friends. Now, sure, Legends and Lattes is a much cooler name, but the best moments are when Viv makes new friends. And that's usually because they have some specialty. Maybe they're a baker. Maybe they're a bard. You know, they usually have something that's very useful to what she's currently doing. Viv, the Maker of Friends, really works because that's really what this story is about. Interpersonal relationships with a massive helping of good vibes. She just wants a home. And not just a place to rest her head or, a place to sleep. Like, she just wants a home. And as the great Scrubs philosopher J.D. once said, all anyone wants is to come home to someone who loves them. And you get a little bit of that here in this book. This makes a perfect bedtime story. Read a few chapters, have some good dreams. And if you're anything like me, bedtime is when you think all those cool thoughts like, hey, remember that really stupid thing you said like 3 years ago? Yeah. So reading a book like this, maybe will put your mind at ease. Can't have coffee with it at night though. But that's okay. You're not going to get lost in the world building, in the world of Legends and Lattes, and you're not going to get lost in the process of making coffee, which is what I thought this was really going to be a lot more about. There's coffee. It's a coffee shop. She makes lattes. She never makes the legendary latte. No, what you do get lost in is Viv's struggles to keep this business up and running and the day-to-day life of running a coffee shop and making friends and possibly making a romantic relationship. There's little but obvious embers of chemistry there, and it somehow feels like the romance is the most important thing, but also barely there. Like, there will be a line where it's like, what you mean by that? And you're like, at first you're like, is there something? And then you can tell there's obviously chemistry there, and it's kind of in the background, but it also, again, feels like the most important thing in the book. This was honestly probably the part of the story that I was most interested in, and maybe the coffee. Look, I really just wanted them at some point to make a legendary latte and like have that be a thing. There's no legendary latte in the book, so I know I was the only one expecting that, but I just got to point that out. Kind of like Rage of Dragons, where it's like, there's a lot of rage, a little bit of dragons. Kind of like that. Like there's coffee. It's not really totally what it's about. And nor should it be, that personal struggles and things like that are definitely more important. But still, wanted more coffee. This book is written to make you feel cozy and warm and fuzzy inside. That's why you read this. Life's hardships and the friends that help us fight them is really the theme here. Now, I think the best part about Legends and Lattes, it's a story you can relax to. What I think makes a book like this great and special is that over the last year, especially over the last year, is that I think a lot of people needed this book. I know I did. How many people over the last few years have been sitting there like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm all right. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm fine. Fuck, why is my heart beating so hard? This book was much needed. I needed this book. And just for my own self. And so I appreciate that. Any book that has a purpose is immediately going to set itself apart, and if it can make anybody feel a little more comfortable, a little more happy, then great. Oh, there's a little bird that just popped up. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I show you. Let's see. There's the bird. Just showed up. But yeah, I guess I'm a Disney princess now. The thing I care about most in any story, just whether I'm reading it, watching it, whatever, listening to it, as I'm watching a story unfold, the number one thing for me is always emotional entertainment. Can the story hit me on an emotional level? When I heard cozy fantasy, I was like, that sounds boring. I don't want to do that. Usually for me, I like stories that are devastating in some way and the protagonist has to battle through ridiculous odds and overcome everything and save the world, and like The Way of Kings. where the protagonist is just going through the ringer and fighting through all these terrible things because you feel for him, and that's what I like about stories, and all the grimdark stuff that I enjoy. Again, emotionally connected, but this was emotional in a different way. It was calm and happy, and I can read this and smile at the pages. You know, you're just enjoying it, having a good time, low stakes, sure, but you feel good. And for me, that's enough. I originally bought this book because it represented a change in the fantasy publishing landscape. For a while, all things grim and dark seemed to dominate the publishing space, and I mean, those are my favorite kind of stories. I mean, I've Prince of Thorns, right here. I really only picked this up because I was like, oh, it seems like an important book just in the history of fantasy. Like, as we're going along, this is a noteworthy thing. And I picked up the collector's edition from the broken binding. Has sprayed edges, looks really cool without the cover even. The broken binding is actually coming out with a special edition of the prequel to this called Bookshops and Bone Dust. It looks, again, like a really nice version. I'm gonna have to pick that up. But then Wraithmark Creative also has just came out with a Kickstarter for another version of this one, Legends and Lattes. I might pick that up too, just because it looks really cool. But the point is, I only picked it up because I thought it was like noteworthy, important. And as a pleasant surprise, it was actually good. And I say a pleasant surprise because this is Travis Baldree's first novel. In fact, it was a NaNoWriMo project that he turned into a novel. And if you're not familiar with NaNoWriMo, that's usually when people are like, maybe I'll finally write that book. And then during National Novel Writing Month, which is November, they try to write 50,000 words in 1 month. And so it kind of did this on a whim, and it turned out actually pretty great. So, I mean, that's awesome. I'm really interested to see what Travis Baldree will do now that there's actually great expectations. In this collector's edition, there's a bonus chapter called Pages to Fill. Oh, you don't have that in your edition? Well, you could just read it for free on Travis Baldree's website because he's awesome, and I'll link that down below. Imagine if he made you buy 5 different editions of the book just for you to get all the chapters. Who would do that? That'd be weird. Huh. Anyways, have you read it? Let me know what you thought down in the comments below, and until next time, later.